Welcome back to the refuge where we trade in candor, not illusions. You are watching Secrets Behind the Stars. If you've been tracing the frayed seams of fame waiting for the exact thread that rips the fabric wide open, you've arrived at the moment you won't forget. Before we walk into the center of the storm that just detonated across show business, let your voice be counted. Subscribe, tap the bell so you don't lose the plot, and if our deep dives speak to your curiosity, consider joining as a member. Your support keeps this space brave enough to face difficult truths. Today, we are unraveling a moment destined to be dissected for years. We are examining what happened with Demet Özdemir and Yaman. It was supposed to be procedural. A quiet update in a courthouse corridor about an actress's well-being, her future, and questions orbiting the father of her child. No explosions. No spectacle. Just paperwork in progress. But the day did not obey the script. The morning ushered in a shockwave, a silent detonation that rattled everyone inside those walls and far beyond them. Yaman did not merely attend. He did not simply answer a question. He brought to the surface a secret life, a hidden coexistence, a failure of courage that silenced the entire room, attorneys, observers, veteran reporters, all of them stilled by the weight of what he chose to say. Today, we walk through what truth can do when it arrives years too late. To feel the scale of it, you have to picture the scene. The court expected an update on Demet Özdemir's health and where the legal threads around her baby's paternity stand. No one expected Can to be there, let alone to step up and speak. His arrival was described not as the entrance of a celebrity but as the appearance of someone who had walked through a long night and hadn't yet met the morning. He came alone. No agent running interference, no protective bubble. Reduced, thinner, with the visible stamp of sleeplessness, he moved like a man carrying a private weight across his shoulders. When he took the floor, the air in the room changed, from procedural to suffocating, from neutral to electric. Then came the question from Demet's counsel, pointed and unembellished. Did you ever share a home with my client? This is where PR playbooks usually begin to spin, where evasions show up dressed as answers. But Can inhaled, lowered his eyes to the floor as though it were owed an apology, and said the words that now scorched through every newsroom in the country, yes. We lived together. Under the same roof. We built a private life that no one saw. With that, the dam burst. For months, the public had suspected. Rumors flooded timelines. Both sides denied. The story was barricaded. Why bury it? Why stare into cameras and insist otherwise? Can's testimony stripped away the curtain. Nobody knew because that's what she wanted, he said. And I honored it. But then he went further. He described a bond that was not a fling twisting in the wind, but a union that felt like marriage without rings. When pressed to name what they truly were, he did not hesitate. We were a couple. We lived as partners do, even if neither of us would admit it out loud. The judge, a presence known for composure, blinked and adjusted his glasses as if refocusing on a reality he hadn't predicted. Can painted the secret life in careful strokes, separate grocery trips that ended in the same kitchen, the hush of a shared sanctuary that too often blurred into a cage. He spoke of real intimacy, of quiet routines and small rituals, and he spoke of the shadow growing under it all, a toxicity that fed on secrecy. Now, pause with me and ask yourself, the jury of public opinion, can love endure when it's forced to live in the dark? Does hiding a near marriage inevitably crush the very thing it tries to protect? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if our breakdown of this moment resonates, hit like so more people who care about what's real can find this story. The confession did not end with who slept where. Can began to map the slow-motion collapse. The fights that spun in circles. Promises that never made it to morning. A love that once felt bright dimming under paranoia and pressure. Demet and I loved each other, he said, voice low and rough, a mixture of remorse and yearning. But we were two damaged people trying to hold on to something that kept slipping through our hands. He described nights of shattering vulnerability, Demet crying until dawn, crushed by the weight of what the world expects and the secrets she felt forced to carry, while he stood there, unable to translate comfort into action. I didn't always know how to be what she needed, he admitted. It wasn't self-defense. It was an inventory of shortcomings. He spoke of jealousy like ivy wrapping around trust, of suspicion taking root in a house that used to feel safe, and of relentless media pressure turning their refuge into a battleground. But the most piercing admission was still coming. He addressed the baby. I knew she was pregnant before anyone else. Before the press, before strangers with cameras, before even some of the people closest to her, he knew. He remembered that moment with disarming clarity. She told me, trembling. She held on to me and begged me not to leave her alone. It was a plea for presence, for safety, for a partner unafraid to stand in full daylight. And then came the sentence that seemed to drain the room of oxygen. And I failed. I couldn't rise to it. I didn't support her the way she needed. She carried that pain without me. Whether it was fear or pride or frailty, the outcome was the same, absence. The room went quiet in a way only grief can orchestrate, a hush that lets you hear, in retrospect, the echo of a heart breaking. The aftermath was immediate, not theatrical but bodily. Those who were there say that after laying out the details, Ken began to come undone. The mask slipped, the veneer cracked, and for the first time since any of this began he did not merely get emotional, he broke. Not a few tears, not a calculated gesture, but a collapse from the inside. The judge had to call a recess to give him space to gather himself, to avoid turning a confession into a complete undoing. This wasn't a scene. This was what happens when truth finally tears through a dam you spent years reinforcing. It can absolve, it can also raise. While the building trembled with that testimony, another heartbreak unfolded far from the courthouse. Demet Özdemir is still under medical care, healing from a crisis that left her fragile in body and spirit. A nurse on her floor says the confession reached her through a lawyer's careful voice. She was read the words, the shared home, the acknowledgement of the pregnancy, the admission of failure. She didn't smile. There was no vindication, no final victorious chord. She covered her face, and the tears came quietly, steady, resigned. The only sentence she whispered into the sterile quiet was this, he said it at last, but it's too late. Later, the nurse noted that Demet kept returning to a single question, repeating it like a refrain to a past that won't answer back. If I had the strength once, why wasn't it said then? That phrase, too late, is the center of this saga. For Can, the confession is release. For Demet, it is an echo that proves what she survived alone. Truth delivered after the harm is done does not mend the wound. It only acknowledges that the scar was earned. And now the chorus begins, why now? Why set fire to privacy at this exact hour? Is he reaching toward her across the chasm, trying to pull her back? Is it a reflex to whispers about a new presence in her life, a fear of being replaced in the final reel? Or is it the last act of a man who can't bear the weight of a lie any longer, who recognizes that silence has been devouring what remains of him? The confession sprints across headlines. The clips are played and replayed. Analysts parse every word. But this is not the end. It is the first tremor of the aftershocks. He confirmed what the rumor mill long suspected. He dragged their secret union into the daylight. He owned the ways he fell short when her future depended on his courage. And by doing so, he tipped a row of dominoes. Every shared glance is now being reinterpreted. Every old interview is being excavated for subtext. The public is not only seeing Demet as someone who was hurt, but as someone who protected a silence to shield the very person who could not shield her back. And Can? He's standing inside the ruins of a glass house he helped design, understanding with brutal clarity that apologies, no matter how raw, cannot go back in time and lift the weight off the moments that needed them most. We will keep watch on the ripples of this quake. Will Demet speak when she is stronger? Will Can try to see her, not as a headline, but as a person he once promised to stand beside? Will the truth that arrived so late become a bridge or only a mirror? The drama is not done. Not by a long shot. Thank you for staying with us here on Secrets Behind the Stars. If this exploration resonated with you, share it with someone who cares about the truth behind the glitter. Subscribe, and consider becoming a member to power the work we do. We are here for the stories others handle with gloves or won't touch at all. Until we meet again, guard your heart and remember, say what must be said while your voice can still be heard.